Good morning, all, or happy lunchtime for my friends in South Downs and others of you living in the future. And welcome to Kal-bardr's Corner for this episode of Coffee with Cal. I am Baron Kal-bardr Gellir, Pan the Meridian Cross, Pan the Argent Comet, Pan the Compostella, Pan the Palmer's Lantern, Defender of the West, and Reaper. Coming to you live from the southwest outpost of the Barony of South Downs here on the southern coast of Meridies. Today, I am flying solo. I've got a cat. I've got some opinions. Maybe a little wisdom. Today's topic is going to come off of a post I made on Facebook last week. So we'll get into that in a minute. But first, we have a few things to handle. Today is 9/11. I did not realize that when I scheduled the show. I might have not scheduled a show today, but I think the topic ended up lining up with today's sort of remembrance. Being that symbols in 9/11 and the World Trade Center and what it was to us as Americans, for those who aren't in America watching this, is that sort of has become an iconic symbol now of loss, I guess. So it's really interesting. So if you're out there and you think back to where you were, 2001, God, it's been a few years now. Just remember that. Remember that as a thing that happened and is a thing we should always keep in mind. Move forward. And that's that. I'm not gonna dwell on that. That is a whole lot of negative and a whole lot of not great memories today. So on a positive note, I have a few congratulations to send out to friends of mine. First of all, I want to thank Their Majesties Yon and Edain, the current King and Queen of Trimaris, for allowing Keisa and I to come over and be a part of your festivities. I got Herald Trimerian Court. That was super cool. Going to be part of their coronation and part of one of their courts later. I got to play games and sit at high table. It was an amazing weekend. And I want to thank them and just the Kingdom of Trimaris as a whole for being super hospitable and welcoming back those of us from the mother country back into their lands. So, Vivat Trimaris, as they say. And let's see what else we got. Oh, of course. I'm going through my list of things I'm supposed to remember here. Speaking of amazing things that happened yesterday, congratulations go out to Neil Greenstone and Kelsey Ellsworth, the current captain of Blackwood and a former guest on Kal-bardr's Corner, the new Lord and Lady of the Mists. Neil won the Cornet list yesterday for the Mists, so he'll be him and Kelsey will be succeeding. Good God, I cannot talk today. Succeeding Hans and Helga and Hans as the Prince and Princess of the Mist. So super excited for them. And just saying, I have another to add to the notch of people who've been on Coffee with Cal or Kal-bardr's Corner and they went on to win a list. Just saying, if you're out there fighting in a crown list or a cornet list and want to do better, being on my show doesn't hurt, apparently. So Congrats to Neil. Looking forward to hanging out with Neil and Kelsey both at Great Western War coming up. What else? I'm sure there's more. I have some shows announced after those. We'll get to that later. But of course, this is Coffee with Cal, coffee being an important part of that. The show is coffee themed, and we, of course, must talk about our beans. So today, it is pumpkin pie spice season. And yes, I am that basic. But I did find a pumpkin pie flavored coffee. Not pumpkin pie spice, pumpkin pie. It's from Publix, actually. I know it's a bougie store, but I shop at Publix a lot. So it is pumpkin pie. It tastes like pumpkin pie in a cup, and I'm super excited about it. And of course, out of my Ontario gift mug from the Queen of Ontario. So super excited about that, and it's amazing, and I hope I get to drink all of it. So looking forward to that. Drinking more of that. If you're out there watching me, please let me know in the comments. I can see a number of people watching. I don't know who's out there until you comment. I'm just going to point wherever I think comments are on the screen. They're over here for me. They might be down there for you. So wherever they are, let me know who you are, where you're from. Interesting tidbit about you. I do see Duke James out there watching. And of course, Great Western War is going to be lit. That's what the cool kids say, I guess. Lit. So, all right. Let's talk about today's topic. So this came out of a post I made on Facebook, actually out of Trimaris Coronation. My cat's going to be in my way, so I may not be able to get to the house. That's awesome. But it's a much larger topic than that. So symbols, right? I've talked about this a little bit before in reference to our role playing, right? So the SCA is a giant LARP. Go ahead, get it out of your system. Be mad at me for a minute. Let's get back to it. Obviously, we are a historical recreation society that focuses on, education first, right? That's the goal. We are a hobby club that has business to do, right? Those are two important things. But a large part of what we do is role play, right? I'm not really a baron of some foreign lands. You're not really a king. You're not really a lord or lady. Those are not things that exist. They only exist as far as we allow them within our game. So really, those titles, the cornets we wear, the badges we bear, those are all symbols. And some of those are very large, right? Being king of Meridies, or a kingdom is a huge thing. Being princess of the mists is a huge thing. Those are large symbols. But the smaller things also have meaning, right? Every little thing that you wear on your belt, every little pin you put on your hat, every little doodad you give to someone carries some sort of meaning. I think for me, that is really where the impact of the SCA comes in, right? So anybody who's watched Ask Science Live or other shows I've done, we often ask the question of what brings you back to the SCA, what keeps you around, and 9 times out of 10, or some variation, it's the people, right? The people are the answer. You're gonna ask me, okay, Cal, what are you talking about people? I'm gonna show about symbols. Well, the people are what imparts the power to symbols. And I say that, and I can't have a show about symbols without talking about swastikas and other symbols. So, little history on the swastika. Swastika was originally a symbol of peace. It's a Sanskrit. It's older than time. It was taken by the Nazi Party during World War II. I hope that's correct. My timing is terrible. And used for hate. So that symbol was co-opted. Was removed from its original intent and used differently. We see a lot in our current day and age in a lot of the other hate groups using lightning bolts, or a lot of the like Thor's hammer and Mjolnir and other such of the not Asgarding the you know what I'm talking about, the Norse, thank you, the Norse symbols as hate symbols, right? But they're using them to identify their hate groups. The symbol itself is not being used for hate, but it's used to identify a hate group, right? So the interesting thing for me is that symbol has as much power as we have given it, right? And I think that to me is like I want to sit with that for a second, right? The symbols are only as powerful as we give them. So if we think about the SCA and symbols that we carry, so I'm thinking about a couple of big ones: the knight's belt, the knight's chain, right? Those are symbols. The salute to our consorts or to our inspirations, favors we carry on our belt for them, the different badges for the awards we carry. Those symbols in modern day mean nothing. So if you're a knight out there, I challenge any of you to sort of do a favor for me here and walk around, pick a street in your hometown and put your knight's belt on. Just your knight's belt, modern clothes and your knight's belt. And I can just about guarantee that no one else out there will recognize that except those of us who are in the SCA. It'll mean nothing to them, right? We in the SCA have taken that white belt and turned it into a symbol of purity, a symbol of the knighthood, a symbol of that elevation, right? The pelican and its piety, the free pointed, the three swords on a point, the cap of maintenance, the laurel wreath. The laurel wreath actually has two, and that bugs me. Laurel's out there. I'm sorry, I'm going to rant about that for a second. The fact that the laurels, the Order of Laurel, and groups both use the laurel wreath bugs me. Somebody should fix that. Grump. But those symbols only have as much power as we give them, right? And I think that's actually more powerful because it's not me telling you that this symbol means a thing, right? It is us sort of collectively agreeing that that symbol means a thing. I think this happens in the LGBT community with all the different sort of various rainbow flags and the names that the LGBT community has taken for itself. Is there a difference between bisexual and pansexual? Yes. No. Sort of, like, that symbol, right? In this case, a name is important to someone, is important to someone's, and became important to that community. So they embraced it. And those different flags became important to that community. So we embraced it. Do we need a poly pride flag? Well, no, we don't need one, but we have one. And it became important to some folks. Therefore, it's important to the community. So to go back to the post I made on Facebook, and I want to thank Sarl Merrick specifically for this. I know he's read the post multiple times, and he and I spoke on the phone the other day about this. The weight of symbols, right? So the Knight's Chain is one that we have all embraced as a thing, or if you're in Meridia's, Glen Albin, Trimaris, a couple other kingdoms, the Squire Chain as well, is the weight of our fealty, right? Our allegiance to our crown, to our kingdom. So every piece of that, every little bit of that is some part of that weight. I know in certain kingdoms I've seen where they've done like they've taken links out of chains and made a chain for the crown, or the baby knight carries a chain of links of all the past knights. And again, it's those are symbols of that sort of lineage you come from, or from the knights of the greater kingdom. So Sir Merrick gave me a link out of his chain. So Keith and I went over to Trimaris, and I am very much an all or nothing kind of guy. When I go to somewhere, I do stuff. I like working. I like doing things. I like staying busy. So I ended up held in court. I ended up being involved, ended up running games. Not because I cared about recognition, or because I cared about talking about it, not because I had planned to talk about it, but because I wanted to, because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy making other people's day better, right? And I like being involved. Which was really funny when you got friends of yours in court and sitting with their peer. Lady Gorwin talks about how her peer was sitting in the back of court and went, who the heck's that guy? When she sees me walk into court heralding and, some random dude from Meridian. So Gorwin got to have a good laugh with her peer about that one. But I was just doing stuff. I was just participating in the day, right? So Armeric walked up to me a little while later on Sunday after he'd sworn fealty. So he missed court, so he had some sort of fealty separately. So I went and got the sword, took it to Yon. He knelt down, he did his whole thing. He put his chain back on. He'd been carrying it around on his belt all day, or in his hand all day. So he swore fealty, put his chain on. About an hour later, I was sitting there playing a game or hanging out with Keeser, doing something at the table. And he walked up and said, "Hey, do you got a wrench or something?" And I was like, "Sure." I thought he was fixing his chain. And I handed him a bracelet or something I had on. And he fiddled with the chain for a second and popped the chain out. I popped a link out. I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he puts it on the table in front of me. And that link is a part of his lineage, part of his chain, it's part of his fealty. It's a link. It's a ring. If you make chainmail out there, I make chainmail. So I have a box of chain in my garage. I have springs and springs of steel out there made in the rings. The ring itself is meaningless. It is pointless. It is cheap. It carries no weight. The weight that person gave that ring, and the weight that me as the recipient, because I see a note from Ramut, I'm right here in a second, gave that ring, right, is what really made that a symbol. So that ring is a symbol of his fealty, is a symbol of his line, the symbol of his knighthood, and is a part of him as a person. And for him, it was a thank you, right? I didn't need it, didn't want it, didn't ask for it, but it was important for him. And that hit me, right? It hit me hard that he would give part of himself like that, and that what I had done had some sort of impact. And I appreciate him for that. Again, not my intent. It was neat. And it really got me thinking about that. And like I said, he and I have talked since then about it. And he left some comments out there. If you're on my Facebook, please go read that post and read the comments on it. To sidebar from that, there's another post that Sir Brialton put out and he was reminded of, that it's you never know who's watching, right? And I think those symbols sort of key to that for me, is it's a reminder that there's always something there. There's always somebody watching. There's always a thing going on. And you never know the impact of that. So that little thing like that little ring, for him cost, a penny, right? In a minute of time, but it had a large impact. It's now had it's an hour-long show on YouTube and a post on Facebook, but it's also sat with me for a while. So our actions, right? Things we give away, things we give to someone, pieces of regalia, pieces of largesse, the crowns we wear, and the importance we give them is important to someone else. Some things I talk about when I talk to landed barons, landed nobility, landed royalty, that for you as that noble, this may not be important, right? That 5 minutes, that dinner, that gift someone gives you, well, yeah, it's a stupid link it's a stupid piece of chainmail. Has no meaning. It's pointless. But someone taking the time to give you that thing, right? For them, it's important, and you are important in that role. I think this applies to the peers. It applies to basically, the more advanced you are on the SCA, the more it applies. So if you're, a lord or lady, if you're a honorable noble, if you're a baron, if you're a landed baron, if you're a prince, princess, king, queen, whatever, count, duke, so on and so forth. The higher you are, the more that applies, because the more of a job you have and the more of an impact you play in the SCA. I'm going to pull this comment up from Ramut here and talk about this for a second too. So messages relayed in communication are interpreted by the recipient, not the sender. Even mutually agreed upon symbols, nuances, I think is what you meant there, are different for each individual interpreting its message. And she's correct here, right? So I think this it goes back to sort of the swastika idea. It goes back to the idea of our crowns. So just because something isn't important to you doesn't mean it's not important to someone else. And just because it's important to you doesn't mean it's important to someone else. I think that's where we can look at in our community, right? In our game we play. And we've all agreed that crown is important, that the crown, both the physical crown they're wearing, but also the personage of the crown is important. And I understand that, it sucks to have to be that 100% of the time, to have to be on stage like that for 6 months out of the year, a year out of the year, whatever. But I want you to think back to that new person that's going to show up, that's going to see you, right? And you're their first crown. You're someone's first crown. You're someone's first peer. That's someone's first piece of largesse, right? So that random bead that you give a newcomer, to you, it's a random bead. To them, it's their first piece of largesse. It's their first gift they received from the SCA. All right, and that's the I guess the fun thing about symbols and symbolism and symbology is that just like all communication, it's a two-way street, right? It's both sides of that, and there are two meanings to the thing. It's okay, Remote. I got you. I didn't think you meant nuisances. I did not think that. Also, I realized that at least on my screen, my stuff's kind of flashing weird at the bottom. So if my banners are flashing up weird, I apologize for that. I'm not sure if it's my computer or if it's my connection. So I don't know. I guess that's what I've got, right? So that's where my thoughts. If there's any questions out there, those watching, please drop them in the comments. This is just something I've been sitting with, and I always want to have more sort of to expand upon, and I feel like I could just talk for an hour about some of this. The weight of those the little bits is huge, right? And it's so it's funny. It's why I, as a herald, and I, as a rules lawyer, like to follow the rules. Part of that's my autism. I get. I see my wife out there laughing about it. Part of it is the rules are important, right? The heraldry, right? The heraldry being a symbol, being a thing we do. We have badges and they're important. We have names and they're important. We have offices and they're important because they build the structure of our game. And they allow us that space to play in, so that when we look to our land and nobility, to our peers, as symbols of something, right? Because you are. So those out there who are peers, who are land and nobility, you are symbols. You in yourself are a symbol of something. Good, bad, or indifferent, you are a symbol of something. Your barony, your group is a symbol of something. We want those symbols to be positive, right? We don't want any of our local groups to turn into the swastika of the SCA. And we also don't want our local groups to accidentally use something like that. So there's a piece of fabric that I picked up this Trimaris this weekend, and whenever I have anything that seems questionable, I always give it to somebody else. Say, okay, look at this. Is anything wrong? You see something weird? I always do a sort of a fit check on something to make sure that I'm not missing something, right? Because I can look at a thing, I can look at a piece of heraldry, I can look at a badge idea, I can look at something that's silly to me, and I think it's hilarious, right? I think it's funny. I see nothing wrong with it, but I send it to a couple of people to make sure that there's something I'm missing, because it's super easy to miss a swastika in the background of something. And I'm using the swastika as an example here, right? So negative space is often a thing. Lettering is a thing. the font you use is a thing. It's really easy to forget about some things and not realize that, especially, and I'll say this, in my white male privilege, I don't see all the negative in those pieces. So sending things out to broader culture before I use them for a thing, I think is important. From Genevieve, I think the SCA originated from the idealism of Tolkien and Arthurian stuff makes symbols more important to us than interacting with groups. I'm going to agree and disagree with this. I think it is differently important, but yes. So with this, because yes, all of our stuff is make-believe, right? So all of the kingdoms, all of the nobility, it's all make-believe, right? None of us are recreating people, places, or things from period. But we are educating about those things. So we're not recreating certain Civil War battles. We're discussing how battles happened. I think that divests us of the negative from history, but makes it even more important for the symbols we use for us to be careful with them, because we are recreating symbols and we are using symbols and we are making up symbols. It is very easy for us to go negative on that. But it's also, I agree, it makes them more important to us because they are our symbols. We're not using symbols from period. We're not reusing other people's symbols. And if someone sits a throne who is not up to the symbol, it can ruin experience of an experienced player. You're right. And this is where I think it's important for the peers and the landed nobility around that person to step up to the game. And I'm going to say this. All right. So you're king or queen or prince or princess, depending where you at, for 4 to 6 months. And and then 4 to 6 months before that, depending on your rotation. So let's say a year. You are nobility. You are a landed noble in that throne role for a year. That can have a huge impact. But the Baron, Baroness, Baronex, the peers are there for a lot longer or forever. I think that's where we can, if we see a crown, a king, a queen that is less than they need to be, the rest of us can pick up the slack and be that example, right? So, I may not be a fan of certain crown, right? I don't like that person that won that tournament. They and I don't get along. While they're on the throne, that's my king, and I'll treat them as such. I don't have to like them, but that's what I'm going to do. But while I'm out in public, while I'm off in other places, I'm going to treat them with that deference. I'm going to give them the respect that they have earned in this game. Would I buy them a cup of coffee at Starbucks the next morning? No. He can buy his own coffee, right? But I'm going to make sure they get the toast that they should. I'm going to make sure that gifts are given to other kingdoms from my crown, because that's what I do. All right. So I think that's where we can pick up the slack on that. Is we can be the example we want to see. We can be those symbols where they're not being them. All right, let's see. From Ramut, what is the most bothersome interpretation or misinterpretation of an SCA symbol in your experience, other than ones associated with hate groups? Ooh. So I had one, and I'm going to answer the first part of this, and then I'll come up with a second example here. So for me, the one that's immediately came to mind when that question popped up was two actually. So meridies. If anybody doesn't know the history of meridies, real quick, it's the South. It literally means the South, or means South, because we had like East, West, Mid. We are the South. Tract. One of our badges was a voided saltire, black and white star, which anybody who's not herald may not know what that means or sort of what that translates to in your head. But it, for lack of a better term, it alluded to the Confederate battle flag. I don't know if that was the intention of it. I don't know if that was their original idea. That's what it showed. And people outside of the South, when they saw it, went, "Ooh, that's not great." So we decided to get rid of it. Now, not only that, it also has been used by a hate group recently in the last year or two here, pre-COVID rather. One of the white supremacist groups was using a very, very, very similar badge on their shields, like on their riot shields in some of the Black Lives Matter like protests and stuff. Now, for me as a longtime Meridian, that badge that we flew, that was our battle flag, right? Because it was an easy one to draw on the shield. It was one that was very distinguished, very identifiable. And it sucked. It was hard for us to get rid of that symbol, but the impact it had outside of our kingdom was much larger, and that sort of, it looked more negative than we wanted to. Again, it goes back to the sort of recipient sender thing. What it meant to us and what it meant to you, the viewer, was very different. So that's one. That's one that immediately came to mind. I think that's important. And it also shows the sort of the change too, right? So when that badge was first created, I don't know, 30 years ago, that impact wasn't there. The negative part wasn't there. Or it may have been, but wasn't as prevalent because of lack of the internet or whatever. We have evolved. We've changed since then, and that now is a negative piece, right? That symbol is now more negative than it was then. So I think that's important to remember that this does change a lot. This is a thing that bothers me, and I'm going to say why. We cannot separate the two. So the West Kingdom, and I've heard other kingdoms talk about this, that we honor the crown, the symbol of the crown rather than the person. And I agree with you. Yes, that is what we're doing. And I've had this discussion with people who have issues with swearing fealty or can't for religious reasons, or whatever, that they won't swear a fealty to a person and they can't swear it to a symbol and the whole thing. So yes, the crown, when we say the crown, we're talking about the symbol of the crown, right? The fictitious king and queen of the West, not the people Cyrus and Catriona that are sitting there currently, right? But you cannot divest the two. Forever and a day, Cyrus will be king of the West currently, right? And he will put his mark on that crown and on those thrones, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So yes, when we talk about honoring the crown, we talk about the crown, and that's what I mean when I say I will do them deference. I don't care who's sitting there. But we also can't divest the two in that I personally think when it's someone who is less than good sitting on a throne, and please God, I'm not saying Cyrus is a bad king. I was using him as an example. Sorry, Your Majesty, I don't mean to impugn your honor there. I think when there's a bad crown, a bad king, a bad queen sitting, I think that's when the rest of us need to step up and do more, because we need to pick up the slack from them. And it's so we can maintain the symbol of that crown as a positive, even though the person wearing it is a negative, right? It's a two wrongs make a right sort of effect, right? Yeah, that's exactly what I said. There you go. They will impact the kingdom. They will impact the people, but it means we've got to work harder. It's also why I think, all right, Kal-bardr's Corner hot take for a second here. I think all of our legal power should be divested from our crowns. I think our current king and queen, prince and princess of those principalities and kingdoms should have zero legal power. All they should be able to do is hand out awards and act pretty and do the pretty stuff. They should not have any legal power. They should not deal with money or stuff or things or people or any of the stuff. We have seneschals for that. That's their job. They should not be involved in that at all. That's my hot take for the day. Okay. That's separate from this, though. Okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Here's a good one. That's a good one. So name, not a symbol, but so the whole Vardo wagon thing, right? Maybe doesn't know what they're talking about. So there is the Romani culture, and I say it that way because the other word is a racial slur, which is a weird thing for me, being I used to role play as a Romani in a different game, and we called them by the racial slur because that was the name of the races, and it's really hard for me to divest that because that's still on the book what that's called. But so Vardo is a Romani traveling wagon that they use as their storage and sort of their house, but there's a whole lot of things that they don't do in it because it's unclean. It's merme. I know a lot about Romani culture that I probably never needed to because of the research we did for those characters. But recently, the idea of not using the racial slur as a name, right? Because it was a really popular thing over the last 10 years to use it for a wandering lifestyle. But calling your wagon a Vardo is very common. I actually saw it more out west than I do over here. That's, because we don't want to call them trailers. I think, and I being here in Meridia's can agree that trailers are a thing. Trailer parks are a thing. So having a traveling wagon, regardless of the style of it, calling it a Vardo was cute. And it's sort of like calling a car a dragon, right? It's sort of the same idea. It helps us maintain that medieval lifestyle idea. But the Vardo actually was a very specific thing used by the Romani people, and it had a very specific purpose. And I think we know more of that now. And using Romani as a grouping, there are a whole bunch of traveler cultures that use that. Using Romani as the umbrella for that. Apologies if that's incorrect. I'm pretty sure that's close-ish, though. So the Vardo had some very specific rules, things you could and couldn't do in it, or shouldn't do in it, that were clean or unclean. So the idea is that we should stop using that. All right, we should stop using the word Vardo because it is not what we're doing. We are building mini houses, traveling trailers, campers, whatever you want to call them, to sleep in, pee and poop in, have sex in, whatever, right? There were things they couldn't do in Vardos or didn't do in Vardos. So calling them Vardos is incorrect, actually. So it's actually just wrong. Not even is it appropriation. It's just wrong. And just like the idea of symbols for my cat's pushing buttons. Hi, can you not? Thank you. Just like the idea of symbols for LGBT culture, the changing of pronouns, right? Somebody using he, him, going to she, her, or they, them. Those changes will happen. This is a changing culture, and it's changing quicker now than it did 10 years ago, than it did 20 years ago. So when that comes up, we have to go, oh, okay, cool. Neat. And we sit with it for a second, right? Especially those of us who are more privileged, right? My culture is never going to get appropriated. I'm never worried about my culture being appropriated. I'm not part of a First Nations group. I'm not part of any indigenous tribes. I'm not part of the Romani, bloodline. I'm not part of fill in the blank culture here that's been appropriated over the years. I'm going to pop this up. We learn and we do better. And that's a great sort of a summation of symbols. We learn and we do better, both on a positive note and a negative note. We learn and we do better, right? Which I think is super important for the SCA as a historical educational society. We learn and we do better. Let's see. So another great comment here I missed earlier on. As we research these symbols from different cultures, symbols, names, words, the act of researching them is giving them, in my opinion, honor, right? So we are honoring these cultures. People often talk about, especially as we're moving into more extra European things, right? The SCA even 5 years ago was very European focused. as we're moving into more extra-European stuff and looking at some of the spoken culture, being as someone who is working on research in a non-written culture, it is hard. It's also a dead culture. That culture no longer exists for me to even go talk to them. So doing so with compassion and understanding and looking at those things when we realize, ooh, we were doing that wrong. We were wearing the wrong thing. We were wearing the wrong color. We were calling that, a Vardo versus a wagon. All right, cool. Now we know. And having that compassion and understanding is super important to allow us to grow, right? And the SCA has to grow, folks. We've got to do better. The SCA is to continue. We have to be willing to learn and do better. Just gonna drink my coffee and leave that on screen for a second. We got to be willing, and I think that's there's a key word in that: willing. You don't have to succeed. Nobody's asking you to be 100%. Nobody's asking you to do it right yesterday or tomorrow. Being willing to learn. So if someone of an indigenous culture walked up to me and be like, hey, those earrings you're wearing are something that's important to my culture. It's important to the insert fill in the blank tribe. I don't think you as I would prefer you as a 6'3" white dude not wear those, and be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna pop those earrings out, and then we're gonna sit down and have a conversation about that. Like, tell me more. Tell me what that means to you. Tell me why. Tell me where that came from. Because not only do I want to know why I shouldn't, I want to know why they do. I want to know where they are. Right? And maybe at the end of it, maybe these are just plastic feathers. But maybe that's a symbol I'm unaware of. Right? Maybe this is some tribal symbol I'm unaware of right now. And the minute I find out that it is, I'll take them out and I'll stop wearing them. Right? It's just a plastic earring. It means nothing to me. Now, if this plastic earring was given to me by my grandfather and was passed down in my family and was from some native culture that's in my family, then I'm going to have the conversation with that person and tell them why I'm wearing them, right? And why it's important to me. And we're going to come to some understanding. Right? It's a symbol. Recipient, sender. It's more to look at. But I think the idea, and it pops up again, is being willing. Willing to have those conversations, willing to sit down and listen, right? Especially, and I'm talking to all you Caucasians out there look like me, be willing to listen. And I know that's funny hearing from someone running his mouth by himself on the internet. But it's why on these shows, when I've done stuff about, being Black in the SCA, or trans rights, or stuff about being female, or insert sort of marginalized culture, that I made sure it wasn't me talking. I made sure it was somebody from that culture talking, because I don't know that. I can ask the questions, but I don't know. Right? It's not my place. Perfection is a made-up concept. Did a whole show about that. Thank you for that. Willingness to change and learn is a process. Process should not be confused with perfection. You will make mistakes, correct. People also need to understand that learning does not mean we were perfect off the bat. Learning what was wrong is important. So yeah, we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to get the pronouns right. We're not going to get the cultures right. We're not going to get the things right. So if you slip up tomorrow and call that wagon you've been calling a Vardo 100 years for still a Vardo, it's okay. Go Vardo. I mean wagon. I mean trailer. Right? Pick a name. Pick a thing. I do it all the time. I've got friends of mine who use they them now versus he him. We'll be talking about them, and I'll go, oh yeah, they did a thing, and I pause and I correct it and we move on. And occasionally we chuckle about it, right? Occasionally we all right, come on, let's do it, because it's almost funny when we mess up, because it's just that trained habit, but we're getting better. In the fact that we're willing to make the effort, right? And we don't argue about it. We aren't mean about it, right? Greetings, Rafna. Rafen, sorry. I have I have multiple friends with the name Roffin and Rofna, and I have trouble because okay, so Norse culture is funny. So often the male female derivative of names is like add a or add an ie to the name, and it's sometimes, especially like when it's small on the screen, I have trouble seeing the a. So I have a friend of mine who recently changed their name from Roffin to Rofna. Um, from out in Onsiora, super great person. I am happy to know them. They have been on shows with me before, and I appreciate that they changed their name so subtly. So if I do screw up, I can just add an a to the end of it. But it's a great example of that, right? That the Roffin Rofna thing is just an interesting note of that. So thank you. Oh, that's a good one. Tiny estate on wheels. It's a tiny estate on wheels. Yes, that sounds very proper, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm proper enough for that. There you go. From song. So, person that she is chosen as their consort uses they them, and yeah, I think when we meet people, we select a pronoun for them, and you know, it's hard. I think it's especially hard too. And I did not mean to get into pronoun talk today, but I think symbols tracks with this, especially when we're talking about people from the past. So when I talk about Roffin, or in this case, sorry, Rofna now, when I talk about stories from the past when they were presenting as male, it is hard for me not to call them Roffin because that's what I knew them as and what the story is relevant to. And I've had people talk about that before. I think the important thing that somebody told me one time, who it was, if you told me this, please let me know, was that it's not that they changed who they were. It's that they realized who they were and started presenting the correct way. So when she was Roffin, that was wrong. That was wrong. She should have been Rofna all along. Right? So, but yeah, you're gonna screw up. Just be ready for that. Your symbols change. Sorry, I did not mean to dive down the pronoun rabbit hole today, but apparently we're doing that. And hey, you do you. Whatever name you want to be called by, which I think is a thing in the SCA, right? We pick our own names. So we pick our symbols. We choose what those symbols mean to us, but also know that if you go by a certain name, it has connotations elsewhere. It's a great example of that. All right. I'm going to get off that soapbox now. Thank you for the soapbox. I'm going to get off that soapbox now. Let me do some show plugs, and then I've got a final thought, and I'm going to close this day out. So, coming up next on Kal-bardr's Corner, let me pull my calendar up so I don't screw this up because there is some dates coming up. So, I want to apologize because this next few weeks is going to be very busy for me. So I am going out to Great Western War and Western Crown and Grapeau and all that. Plus, I've got like 4 or 5 events here in the greater Kingdom area. So some of our shows may be a little off or weird, but I think I've got all these figured out now. So this Thursday, we'll be back with the 4th episode of 3 Former Fat Guys with a special guest. So I'll be joined by Sir Johan from Trimaris, which is really funny that for episode 4, we'll have 4 former fat guys. So looking forward to having Holy and Fergus and Johan on for that. Come hang out. Apparently, we have to talk about my recent run-in with the having a firearm brandished at me and the cops not responding. Johan wants the full story. So tune in for that story over there, and we'll see what Johan has to bring into the mix there. This is more that, guys. Coming up on Ask the Knights Live. Ask the Knights Live is coming back. We've been working on that in the background. Logan and I have been, along with the new host, one of them who is watching. Hey, one of the tech guys watching. But we're going to be doing an Ask the Knights Live special episode for Ask the Hosts on 9/22 to introduce our 2 new hosts, our 1 new tech person, and Logan and I will be there doing our typical host tech roles for that. So tune in for that on 9/22. Hopefully have the banner up for that soon, waiting for Her Highness Helga to get back from Coronet to get that made for us. Let's see. That weekend would be a Coffee with Cal weekend, but we are not going to do a show that weekend. So no Coffee with Cal on September 25 because I will be coming back from MGT up in Northern Tennessee. If you are around in Meridias, please come out to MGT. It is the Meridian Grand Tournament, the single greatest fighting event in Meridias, in my opinion. It is a day of pageantry and awesome fighting and just great fun. But that Monday after is Gareth and Jermaine will be online with the last episode of A Look Inside Youth Activities. Episode 8, Transitioning to an Adult Player. Sir Ode and Lord Alec will be joining us for that show. This will be the last episode of A Look Inside Youth Activities. It will not be the last episode of A Look Inside. I've been talking with a few other people about A Look Inside fill in the blank thing. If you have a special interest out there, equestrian, archery, service, fill in the blank special interest, please reach out. I'd love to do some limited series for Look Inside blank thing where we do something similar to what Izzy's been doing with this. I think she's planning to do a Look Inside Bardic coming up starting in January. So we're going to give her a couple months off. But if you have special interest, we'd love to hear about it. Please reach out. We have the technology. We can make you better, faster, and stronger. Let's see what my comments have said. Okay, cool. All right, so that's 926 is a look inside the last episode of that. 10-2, we will have an episode of Road to Retention. I have a banner for that. I'm slacking. There it is. Road to Retention 10-2. I will get the banner made for that later today. Oh wait, I have one. I forgot. I feel so bad. Hold on. Time out. Everybody, talk amongst yourselves. I forgot I made that one. I'm terrible at this, guys. So this is the problem when I try to do things early in the morning without coffee, is I'm like not thinking correctly. Hold on. It's loading. It's loading. We're loading. We're loading. We're loading. Turn that banner off. Come on. You can do it. There we go. Road to Retention. There it is. 10-2. Baroness from Root will be joined by the Honorable Lady Erin de Paladine, which that's just a badass picture. That sword kind of terrifies me a little bit. So look forward to that. Another great episode from Ramut, and Erin, based on what I've seen of her so far, is seems to be a handful. So excited to hear them chat. Let's see. Speaking of Great Western War, if you're coming out to Great Western War, don't forget to join us on Friday night at the Dirty Pirate Party at the Cock and Bulls Tavern, where the KK Productions host will be sponsoring a Our Flag Means Death themed party. Come out. There will be like, I think 10 or 12 of the KK Productions hosts all together at that party. We're going to have lots of booze and snacks and flags and all sorts of nonsense. Make a flag. If you haven't seen Our Flag Means Death, make a flag. Make a pirate flag for you. I don't care about heraldry. I don't care about proper rules. Make a cool flag. There'll probably be a prize for the coolest flag. I may even give out tokens for people who make flags, because I like flags. So make a flag. Also, before that, I'm going to go back for a second here. Red Tower. Red Tower is this next weekend here in Meridias. Shout out to my Barony of South Downs for hosting that. If you're in Red Tower, at Red Tower, it's around the Atlanta, Georgia area, starting next Friday. We will be hosting the Bazaar Revel. It is the Grand Bazaar themed event. So the Ministry of Whimsy is hosting the Bazaar Revel. Yes, Bazaar spelled that way. Come out and hang out with us. There's going to be marginalia jousting and cabbage bowling and all sorts of nonsense. There's also going to be like a dance going on too elsewhere if you want to come dance and then come be silly with us in the field. All right. I think that's all I've got. What else? Let me check my thing. Coffee with Cal. Oh, yeah. Oh, and at Great Western War. Sunday morning, Great Western War, there will be a Coffee with Cal live from Great Western War. I don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but we'll be doing it live from there because I'm not going to miss 2 weeks in a row. So come out to hang out with us at Great Western War live. It's going to be like 9 o'clock in the morning there, though, so it's going to be early Sunday morning. But come and hang out before we get ready to pack up for the day. All right. Last but not least, if you want to support us on Patreon, look us up on Patreon, patreon.com/KK Productions. Join the grand wall of patrons. If you get in before the end of September, you will be eligible for October's rewards coming up at the end of the month. You also can look us up on Redbubble, search KK Productions, buy some awesome stickers, or check me out on TikTok at Kal-bardr. I will be TikToking the entirety of the trip to Great Western Moor, Western Crown, Great Western Moor, and Crapeau. All that will get TikToked out there. So check us out there. I think that's it. That's it. All right. Let me catch up on comments real quick. Effin, you're right. Effin didn't pick his name. He is that effing guy. He can't help it. Please do. Please come see me at Great Western Moor. If you're at Great Western Moor, please come find me. Also, if you walk up to me and say, "Hey, you're Cal. I love your shows," I will give you a thing. I carry coin on me for that very reason. Come find me, please. I often, if I don't give you one, remind me to give you one. I have KK Production coins in my pouch for people to walk up and say, "Hey, I saw you on the internet," or whatever, some variation of that. Remind me to give you one if I have not given you one before. Ooh, a look inside heraldry. That's effing terrible spelling, but I know what you mean. A look inside heraldry would be interesting. I know a guy. That's me. I might do that. So I will give you one an MGT song. Come find me. All right. So to sum up, so I can go find some more coffee here. Symbols are important. They are what we give them. They are impactful and meaningful. It does not have to be a grandiose gesture. The littlest thing can have meaning, right? Remember who's watching. Remember that there's always somebody watching, and act like act like the Pope is watching you, because those little symbols can mean so much to somebody. Be careful when we're using pronouns. Be careful when we're using names. Use the right ones. If somebody corrects you, please let them correct you. If somebody tells you that a symbol you're using is in poor taste or wrong, listen. I want to thank Sir Merrick again. I want to thank all the other knights out there. I want to thank all the other peers out there, and those of us who've kept the stream alive. Right, that's what this is. Right, those little things keep the dream alive, and it allows us to continue role play. Allows us to continue to involve ourselves in this game we play. Keep that up, and enjoy the day and whatnot. My friends, that is an empty cup. And I appreciate all of you tuning in. Thank you for watching this show and all the other shows, tuning in every other week. We'll keep doing this if you'll keep watching. But for now, I've been Kal-bardr. You've been awesome. And this has been Kal-bardr's Corner. Have a good day, everybody.